Yep.
But first, we got to get through the video game section. And we start with new releases, including Like a Dragon, colon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. That's wide release, everything. You got it, you can play it, unless you're on the Switch. We also have PGA Tour 2K25 for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. None of that Live Tour bullshit here. This is straight up PGA.
Yes, this is the real thing, not the off-brand.
Yes. We also have The Backrooms 1998 for everything. Wide release. You got it. You can play it. I believe this is in conjunction with the Backrooms YouTube series, correct?
Oh, I have no idea. I can't tell you.
I'm pretty sure it is. There's also Cabernet for wide release. You got it. You can play it. And lastly, Ninja 5.0 for the PC, PS5, PS4, and the Switch.
Yep.
Uh, let's get into some video game news.
Real quick, I want to put an asterisk on this story. A while back, I had said that wanted to try to avoid reporting on generative AI stories on the podcast
Mhm.
because most of the time they were grifts, and most of the time it just seemed like a waste of our breath to talk about it. I made an exception for this story because video games, well, is a pretty small world compared to a lot of other media. There are pretty much the big players, and then there's everybody else. And unfortunately, if a big player is involved in something, I feel like we should probably talk about it. But just know my feelings about the story is that I think what's actually being discussed here is ultimately not going to matter. But this week, it was the big news story in video games. So I guess we'll talk about it.
Because we're talking about Microsoft,
Yes.
and they have debuted a generative AI model that it says can generate, quote, game visuals, controller actions, or both, close quote. This generative AI model, which AI has named Muse, no relation to the band, was developed by Microsoft's game intelligence team in collaboration with Ninja Theory. It will be made open source to help other researchers explore these models and build on their work, Microsoft said. On Wednesday, Microsoft published several videos showing what gameplay sequences generated by Muse could look like. The company said these examples were generated by prompting the model with 10 initial frames, or roughly 1 second, of human gameplay and the controller actions of the whole play sequence. Xbox's Phil Spencer later said he believes Muse could be used to help preserve classic games in the future. Quote, you could imagine a world where, from gameplay data and video, a model could learn games and really make them portable to any platform run. I think that's really exciting. Close quote, he said.
Yeah, I bet you do, Phil. I bet you do find that really exciting. Unless the model in question is Tyra Banks, a living person. I don't want any model making games for me. Thank you very much. Anyway, let's talk about what this thing actually is. So yeah, like a learned language model, like Chat GPT. Basically,
Mhm.
that works by it studies like a bunch of material, written material in the case of Chat GPT, and then it spits out things based on the knowledge that it's learned of the language that it studied. So basically, what Muse is doing is instead of words, it is processing the visuals of the gameplay that's happening in that second of gameplay, and also the button inputs. And basically, what that spits out is a video like demo, basically of, hey, this is kind of like what you said you wanted in your prompt, based on what I've been able to glean from the data that I've studied. So let's use Ninja Theory's games as an example, as Microsoft does in these videos. They take a Ninja Theory game that involves like, like hacking and slashing gameplay, right? Like, so 1 second of hack and slash. So probably XBB is probably the controller input if you're doing like a combo or something. And then you say, hey, Muse, I want a game where you're an action figure, you're like a toy action figure beating up on another action figure in a sandbox. And then supposedly it would spit out a video of that happening with that gameplay interpreted by what it's studied. So, are these ideas? Not really, because if they're taking from existing video games, you're only going to get iterations of the same video games that have already existed, right? You're not going to get a new original game idea. That requires a human brain to do. Uh, game developers are coming up with original gameplay ideas all the time. Like this cannot do something that they can't do. And then on top of that, is it providing possibly a baseline for developers to start? Is this, for example, oh, well, we were going to make a game about two action figures fighting in the first place. Let's pop it in a Muse and have this as a starting place to help us come up with ideas. So that's also a moot point. I'm not a developer, but what I've been listening to people talk about in the last couple of days is that there's already versions of this that were made by people. There are already tools that developers use. The famous example being Mark Cerny, the architect of the PS4 and PS5, and also the developer of Marble Madness, a classic. Um, he developed a long ass time ago, basically a version of this without any AI. That was basically like, here's like a template that you can base video game ideas upon. Here's an existing like framework. So that already exists. So really, what Xbox and Phil Spencer are talking about here is something that they poured a whole lot of money into, a whole lot of man hours trying to think of how to do this. Clearly, probably a very expensive contract with Ninja Theory. Like all of this to spit out something that game developers already have and don't need. That's Muse.
Ah, but that's where you're wrong. This is not for game developers. This is not for people in the business. This is open source. This is for anyone who wants to get their hands on it.
Yeah, but no one needs that. Like, because even if you, okay, I'm going to sideline a little bit because this conversation is kind of wide ranging and
Mhm.
talk about AI in a wider sense just for a second. So this week, everybody's favorite billionaire, Mark Cuban, decided to pop the bubble of relatability for a second and I guess tweeted. It looked like a tweet. I'm guessing it was on X. I don't know if it was on Blue Sky. I don't think he's on there. Basically, hey, I think that the future is if you're not educated and you want a job in the tech industry, go learn AI tools. And if you do that, you're going to have a leg up on people who are educated and refuse to use them. This is according to Mark Cuban. These are not my words. I want to make that very clear.
Mhm.
But that's based on an existence that does not exist. That's based on a reality that isn't real, right? He's basically saying like without specifics that you can come in knowing nothing about the thing that you want to be an expert in and pop it into a learned language model or some other AI equivalent and somehow produce work that's better than somebody who says has a master's degree in like engineering or something. That's what these tech guys think. And that's the thinking that's powering this idea too. This open source idea that you're referencing, and like the idea that anybody can say, hey, I don't know anything about game development, but I want to make a game. I really do. I'm going to put my idea into Muse and it's going to pop out a video game on the other hand, on the other side of this. Well, one, that's not how Muse works. And two,
Mhm.
that's not true. It creates something that kind of is like looks like a game idea, but it's not a game idea. There's no extra steps there. There's no end game for that person who wants to make games because besides a thing that they have a grainy video that's obviously grainy because they can't actually like produce this stuff at high quality yet. Like that means nothing to anybody.
To me, it sounds like a pitch machine. I want my character to do XYZ with button inputs because it's not actual, or at least from what it's being read, it sounded like it's not actual gameplay that's being provided. It's a gameplay footage.
It's like a mock-up. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like a mock-up of the video game in play. But if it's pitching, if you really think this is for pitching, who's going to take these pitches? Because it's all the market already is set up to basically exclude anybody who's not a AAA developer already or has worked on AAA games on their resume. And even then, that's not guaranteed that they're going to get a pitch through the door. What industry are these tech people imagining? It's one that doesn't exist. There's not like some sort of mythical Shark Tank esque, like throw ideas at the wall room where somebody who can just, with a muse and a dream, can just walk into a boardroom and be like, here's my video game idea. That's not how it works anymore. It may have never worked that way. I just don't understand a use case for this in any sector of the industry.
Its use is proving to Microsoft that they didn't waste $100 million buying OpenAI, or yeah, I think it's
Yes.
OpenAI.
Yeah, I think that's what they did. Yeah, no, you're right. Ultimately, it's a vanity project. It's a vanity project for Phil Spencer to get the board members who are like breathing down his neck about AI off his back. It's Microsoft saying, "Yeah, we're using this in every aspect of our company. Copilot this, Copilot that, Muse for Xbox." It's just buzzwords. It's just VC capital, like corrupting every piece of the tech puzzle. It's kind of embarrassing because you have Phil Spencer who keeps trying to seem like he's everybody's video game big brother and the nice dude running the nicest exec to run a video game company. But he keeps stepping on his own feet over and over and over again by doing stuff like this. No one's going to believe him the next time, except they will, because it keeps happening over and over and over again. He keeps doing shit like this, and everybody has the mind, like the memory of a goldfish, and forgets that no, he is just as susceptible to these tech bro like grifts as any tech exec is.
Except
But anyway,
he's in charge of all, well, not all, but a huge sum of money behind and Xbox to do it.
yeah, and that's ultimately why we're talking about it right now, is because it's such a big thing, like a big thing from a big company. And it doesn't, it exists in a plane of reality that doesn't actually exist.
Ah, well, at least we're talking about this, and we'll have something better to talk about next week. Because next week is Pokemon Day.
Yes, that's the other little bit of news is that, yes, the Pokemon Company confirmed that the 27th
Yes, next
of
Thursday.
February, next Thursday, a week from today, will be the annual Pokemon Day, Pokemon Presents stream. This is Legends ZA. This has to be Legends ZA. We have to know what that
Mhm.
thing is. We're going to see gameplay. We're going to hopefully have a release date. It's ZA.
It has to be.
Yeah.
As well as like the next expansion in probably the trading card game and trading card game pocket.
Yeah.
I don't see anything much more after that. There's rumors about them announcing the next animated film and maybe a
Yeah.
sequel to Detective Pikachu.
It's possible. That
Been long
project's
enough.
been yeah, it's been gestating for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they put out a trailer.
Hmm. Or a
Yeah.
teaser or something saying like just
Yeah,
it's
logo.
back. Here's a date.
Ryan Reynolds' voice behind a logo. I could see that.
No, it's just Ron Reynolds with Pikachu saying, "Did you miss me?" And
Yeah,
then
something like that.
cut to a date, and
Yeah.
there you go, Detective Pikachu. There,
Done.
done. Trailer, 10 seconds, hyped. Check it in the mail.
I was just gonna say, like, where's our check? We just figured this out for you. Yeah, no, I'm very fascinated with what ZA is. Just the pitch alone that it takes entirely in Lumio City and Kalos. It's like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
Are there battles at all? Like, what is this game?
There's also
But
that secret Sinnoh project that we don't know anything about.
yeah, we'll see if that's real. Remember, the thing about those leaks is that a lot of stuff was not actually attached to real projects.
Hmm.
So I have my doubts. But yeah, ZA definitely, and yeah, like you said, probably a TCG Pocket expansion, maybe news about Detective Pikachu 2. Yeah,
Yeah.
I expect that.
Yep, just all road. Get your bingo cards ready with that information.
Yes.